Poor student, forced to be CEO's cure, unexpectedly pregnant with twins. CEO marries her instantly. Imagine this. A struggling college student, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, suddenly finds herself at the center of a life-changing whirlwind. One day, she's juggling textbooks and late-night shifts, and the next, she's standing face-to-face with one of the most powerful CEOs in the city. But this isn't your typical rags-to-riches story. Far from it. What starts as an unexpected twist of fate quickly spirals into something no one could have predicted. She becomes his unlikely cure. But that's only the beginning. When an unplanned pregnancy throws them both into uncharted territory, their lives are forever altered. And then, in a shocking turn of events, he proposes marriage. Not out of love, but necessity. Or so it seems. This is a tale of resilience, secrets, and second chances, where nothing is quite as it appears. Let me introduce you to Emma Carter, our protagonist. Emma is a 22-year-old biology major who dreams of becoming a doctor someday, though right now, her biggest challenge is figuring out how to pay for her tuition. Her days are filled with lectures, labs, and long hours waiting tables at a local diner. Nights, those are reserved for studying or picking up extra shifts, cleaning offices. Despite her exhausting routine, Emma has always been optimistic, holding on to the belief that hard work will eventually pay off. That is, until the moment everything changes. And not because of anything she did. It all begins when she crosses paths with Alexander Drake, a man whose name carries weight in every room he enters. A self-made billionaire, known for his ruthless business tactics, Alexander is used to getting what he wants, no questions asked. But even someone like him can't control everything, especially not his own health. Alexander Drake was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder months ago, a condition that left doctors baffled and his future uncertain. Desperate for answers, he poured millions into research, hoping to find a solution. Then came the breakthrough, a potential treatment involving stem cell therapy. The catch? Finding a compatible donor wasn't easy. After countless tests and failed matches, his medical team stumbled upon someone who fit the criteria perfectly. Emma. At first, Emma thinks it's some kind of mistake. How could someone like her, with barely enough money to cover rent, be connected to someone like him? But the evidence doesn't lie. Against all odds, she's the perfect match. Reluctantly, she agrees to help, driven by a mix of guilt and compassion. After all, if she doesn't step up, Alexander might not survive. Little does she know, this decision will set off a chain reaction neither of them could have anticipated. As Emma undergoes the procedure, tensions rise between her and Alexander. He's grateful for her sacrifice, but struggles to see her as anything more than a means to an end. For Emma, the experience is overwhelming. Here she is, giving part of herself to save a man she barely knows, while her own life remains stuck in limbo. Yet despite their differences, there's an undeniable connection forming between them, one neither of them fully understands yet. Things take another dramatic turn when Emma discovers she's pregnant, twins to be exact. The news hits her like a freight train. How could this happen? She hadn't planned on kids anytime soon, let alone twins. And then there's the matter of the father. As it turns out, during one of their meetings post-treatment, things got complicated. Neither of them intended for it to go that far, but emotions ran high and mistakes were made. Now they're faced with consequences neither of them saw coming. When Alexander learns about the pregnancy, his reaction is swift and decisive. Marriage, he insists, is the only logical solution. To him, it's a matter of responsibility and reputation, A child born out of wedlock would tarnish his image, something he refuses to allow. Besides, he reasons, marrying Emma ensures stability for the babies. But Emma isn't so sure. She didn't sign up for any of this. A forced marriage wasn't part of the plan. Still, deep down, she knows raising twins alone won't be easy, and having Alexander's resources could provide the support she desperately needs. So, reluctantly she agrees. Their wedding is quick and private, devoid of romance or fanfare. It's purely transactional, or so it seems. Yet beneath the surface, cracks begin to form. Can two people from such different worlds truly coexist under the same roof? And what happens when feelings start to develop where none were supposed to exist? Their new life together is anything but smooth sailing. Alexander may be wealthy, but his controlling nature clashes with Emma's independent spirit. He tries to micromanage every aspect of her life, from what she eats to how she spends her time. Meanwhile, Emma wrestles with her growing resentment toward him. Is he genuinely trying to protect her and their unborn children, or is he simply exerting power over her? On top of that, the looming question of whether their relationship will ever evolve beyond duty hangs heavy in the air. Friends and family add fuel to the fire, each offering unsolicited advice. Some urge Emma to leave before it's too late. Others tell her to give Alexander a chance. Caught in the middle, Emma feels more lost than ever. She thought saving Alexander's life would bring clarity, but instead, it's thrown her entire world into chaos. Just when it seems like things can't get more complicated, a secret threatens to unravel everything. During a routine checkup, Emma overhears a conversation between Alexander and his doctor. Something about the treatment, the one that saved his life, has side effects they never mentioned. Side effects that could impact not just him, but their children too. Panic sets in as Emma realizes the full extent of what she signed up for. Did Alexander know about these risks all along? Was she manipulated into agreeing to the procedure without being fully informed? Trust, already fragile, begins to crumble. Confronting him leads to an explosive argument, leaving both of them questioning whether their marriage can survive the truth. And then, just as tensions reach a boiling point, another bombshell drops. Someone from Alexander's past resurfaces, claiming to hold information that could change everything. Who is this person, and what do they want? As Emma digs deeper, she uncovers secrets that paint a very different picture of the man she married. Suddenly, the line between hero and villain blurs, forcing her to reevaluate everything she thought she knew. With her due date fast approaching and her trust in Alexander shattered, Emma must decide what truly matters: protecting her children or holding on to the hope of a happy ending. But time is running out, and the stakes have never been higher. The journey ahead promises heartache, healing, and perhaps even redemption. Will Emma find the strength to stand up for herself and her babies? Or will she lose herself completely in the shadow of Alexander's empire? And what about Alexander? Can he shed the layers of arrogance and control to become the partner and father his family deserves? As their story unfolds, one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. Stay tuned to find out what happens next, because the twists and turns are far from over. To truly understand how Emma and Alexander ended up in this tangled web, we need to rewind a little. Before the diagnosis, before the treatment, and long before their hasty marriage, Alexander Drake was a man who lived by his own rules. Born into modest means, he clawed his way to the top through sheer determination and an unrelenting drive for success. But along the way, something shifted. The boy who once dreamed of making life better for others became consumed by power and Control. His company thrived under his leadership, but at a cost. Relationships were sacrificed, emotions buried, and trust became a foreign concept. For years, he operated like a machine, never stopping to consider what he might be missing, until the day doctors told him his body had betrayed him. For Emma, life has always been about survival. Raised by a single mother who worked tirelessly to provide for her, Emma learned early on that dreams don't come true unless you fight for them. Losing her mum to illness during her senior year of high school only hardened her resolve. She promised herself she'd finish college no matter what, even if it meant working endless hours and going without sleep. Her dream of becoming a doctor wasn't just about personal ambition. It was about honoring her mother's memory. So when Alexander's team approached her with the news that she could save his life, she saw it as more than just a coincidence. It felt like fate, like maybe her struggles weren't meaningless after all. What she didn't realize was that agreeing to help would test every ounce of strength she had. The tension between them grew almost immediately after the procedure. At first, Emma tried to distance herself, focusing on her studies and pretending nothing had changed. But Alexander wouldn't let her disappear. He insisted on regular check-ins, claiming it was protocol to ensure her health post-donation. In reality, he couldn't shake the guilt of relying on someone so young and vulnerable. Yet instead of expressing gratitude, he masked his discomfort with cold professionalism, treating her like another asset in his portfolio. Emma, for her part, resented his aloofness. She gave him a piece of herself, literally, and yet he acted as though she owed him something in return. Their interactions were polite but strained, each waiting for the other to break the silence. Then came the pregnancy bombshell. When Emma finally mustered the courage to tell Alexander, she expected anger or denial. Instead, he surprised her by taking charge. Within days, he arranged for top-notch prenatal care, hired a nutritionist, and even redecorated a wing of his penthouse to accommodate her needs. On paper, it looked like he was stepping up, but Emma quickly realized his actions stemmed less from genuine concern and more from a desire to maintain control. Every decision, from the color of the nursery walls to the type of vitamins she took, was dictated by him. It was suffocating, and Emma found herself longing for the simplicity of her old life, even if it meant struggling to get by. As the months passed, cracks began to show in their fragile arrangement. Emma started questioning whether marrying Alexander had been a mistake. Sure, he provided financial security, but at what cost? She missed her independence, her freedom to make choices without second-guessing his motives. Meanwhile, Alexander wrestled with his own demons. Deep down, he admired Emma's resilience, her ability to keep going despite everything life threw at her. But admiration scared him because it hinted at vulnerability, a weakness he couldn't afford. So he doubled down on his controlling behavior, convincing himself it was for the best. The irony was lost on him. The harder he tried to protect his family, the further he pushed Emma away. Things reached a boiling point one evening when Emma overheard that fateful conversation between Alexander and his doctor. The revelation about potential side effects from the stem cell therapy shook her to her core. Could the treatment harm their unborn children? Why hadn't anyone warned her earlier? These questions haunted her as she confronted Alexander later that night. His initial defensiveness only fueled her anger. "You used me," she accused, tears streaming down her face. "You knew the risks and still let me go through with it." Alexander stammered, caught off guard by her accusation. He hadn't known, not entirely, but admitting that felt like admitting failure. And Alexander Drake did not fail. Their argument spiraled out of control. ending with Emma storming out of the apartment. For the first time since they met, she questioned whether staying with him was worth it. Was she sacrificing her happiness for the sake of stability? Or worse, was she repeating the same toxic patterns her mother had endured? Alone in the quiet streets of the city, Emma allowed herself to imagine a different future, one where she raised her twins without Alexander's shadow looming over her. But the thought of doing it alone terrified her. She needed answers, clarity, anything to guide her next move. Back at the penthouse, Alexander paced the length of his office, replaying their fight in his mind. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of his decisions. Had he been too harsh, too distant? He thought back to the moment he proposed marriage. Not out of love, but obligation. Was that enough to build a family on? Doubt gnawed at him, but pride refused to let him chase after Emma. Not yet anyway. Instead, he poured himself into work, burying his guilt beneath spreadsheets and boardroom strategies. But no amount of distraction could silence the voice whispering that he was losing her, and possibly himself. Just as Emma began contemplating her next steps, the mysterious figure from Alexander's past entered the picture. A woman named Claire arrived unexpectedly, claiming to have information about the experimental treatment. Her presence sent shockwaves through both their lives. Who was she really? An ex-lover, a former colleague, or something else entirely? Emma's instincts screamed caution, but curiosity got the better of her. As she dug deeper, she uncovered fragments of Alexander's history that painted a troubling picture. Secrets about failed trials, ethical shortcuts, and cover-ups emerged, forcing her to confront a chilling possibility. Had Alexander knowingly put her at risk? With each new revelation, the stakes grew higher. Emma faced an impossible choice: expose the truth and risk destroying any chance of reconciliation with Alexander, or stay silent and potentially endanger her children's future. Meanwhile, Alexander grappled with the consequences of his actions. If Emma walked away, he stood to lose not just her, but the family he never knew he wanted. The pressure mounted, pushing them both to their limits. Neither knew whom to trust anymore, not each other, not themselves. And then, just as tensions peaked, a twist neither of them saw coming blindsided them. Claire revealed a shocking connection to Emma's late mother, tying their fates together in ways neither could have imagined. Suddenly, the past and present collided, forcing Emma and Alexander to reevaluate everything they thought they knew. With Emma's due date looming and danger closing in from all sides, the question remained: could they overcome their differences in time to protect what mattered most? Or would their fractured relationship crumble under the weight of secrets and lies? The revelation about Claire's connection to Emma's mother hit like a thunderclap, shaking the foundation of everything Emma thought she understood. It turned out that Claire wasn't just another player in Alexander's world. She had been close friends with Emma's mum years ago. They'd worked together at a small biotech startup, the very company where the experimental treatment Alexander received had its origins. When Emma's mother passed away, Claire left the industry altogether, disillusioned by the ethical compromises they'd made along the way. But now, seeing how deeply intertwined their lives had become, Claire felt compelled to step forward. She handed Emma a folder filled with documents, evidence of shortcuts taken during the trial phase, risks glossed over, and promises broken. "Your mother would have wanted you to know," Claire said softly before walking away, leaving Emma stunned. As Emma sifted through the papers, anger burned inside her. This wasn't just about Alexander anymore. It was about justice for her mom. who had unknowingly contributed to something dangerous. Yet even as fury consumed her, doubt crept in. Could she really hold Alexander accountable for decisions made long before he became CEO? He hadn't created the treatment. He'd only relied on it when his life depended on it. Still, the betrayal cut deep. How could he not have questioned the ethics behind it? That night, sitting alone in the dim light of her bedroom, Emma wrestled with what to do next. The weight of carrying twins made every decision feel heavier, more consequential. She knew one thing for certain: silence wasn't an option. Meanwhile, Alexander couldn't ignore the growing distance between them. After days of avoiding each other, he finally confronted Emma, desperate to bridge the gap. What he found stopped him cold, her face pale, clutching the folder Claire had given her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Emma looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Did you know?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Alexander hesitated, torn between denial and confession. In the end, honesty won out. "Not all of it," he admitted. "But yes, I suspected there were issues." His words hung in the air, heavy and damning. Emma stared at him, heartbroken but unsurprised. Instead of lashing out, she surprised him by asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" It was a simple question, yet it carried so much weight. Alexander sank onto the couch beside her, running a hand through his hair. "Because I thought if I ignored it, it wouldn't matter," he confessed. "I convinced myself that saving my life justified the means." He paused, meeting her gaze. "But I see now how wrong I was. Not just for you, but for our children." For the first time, Emma saw vulnerability in him. Real, raw emotion that stripped away the armor he always wore. It didn't erase the hurt or the mistrust, but it gave her hope. Maybe this man, flawed as he was, could change. Over the next few days, they talked, really talked, for hours on end. They unpacked their fears, their regrets, and their hopes for the future. Slowly, painfully, they began rebuilding the fractured pieces of their relationship. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't perfect, but for the first time, it felt real. Then came the day Emma went into labor, a month early, sending both of them into a panic. Rushing to the hospital, Alexander held her hand tightly, promising to be there no matter what. As the hours dragged on and complications arose, Emma clung to his strength, realizing she didn't have to face this alone anymore. When the twins finally arrived, healthy, tiny miracles, they brought with them a sense of renewal. Holding her babies for the first time, Emma felt a profound shift within herself. These little lives depended on her, and she vowed to give them the happiest, safest childhood possible. In the weeks that followed, Alexander surprised everyone, including himself, by stepping up in ways no one expected. He scaled back his work commitments, prioritizing family above all else. He listened when Emma expressed concerns, supported her dreams of returning to school, and even attended parenting classes to better understand his role. Together, they navigated the challenges of raising newborns while grappling with the shadows of their past. Though the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, they faced it as partners, united by love rather than obligation. As for Claire, she faded back into the background after delivering the truth, content to let Emma decide her own path. Her appearance had served its purpose, forcing accountability and healing wounds long buried. Emma often wondered if she'd ever see Claire again, but for now, she was grateful for the clarity she'd provided. The story ended, not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with quiet moments of connection. Emma watched Alexander cradle their son, his expression soft and tender, and realized she'd fallen in love with him, Not the billionaire CEO, but the man beneath the suit. And Alexander, looking across the room at Emma feeding their daughter, felt a depth of gratitude he'd never known before. Life had thrown them curveballs, but somehow they'd found their way to each other. Their journey taught them that love isn't about perfection or convenience. It's about choosing to fight for someone despite the odds. It's about forgiveness, growth, and learning to trust again. For Emma and Alexander, those lessons came wrapped in chaos and pain, but they emerged stronger because of it. As they stood side by side, watching their twins sleep peacefully, they knew one thing for sure. Their happily ever after wasn't written in fairy tales. It was built day by day through courage and commitment.